Changing front brakes on your car is not that hard of a task. We just want to take our time and make sure we do it correctly and follow the specifications for your individual car when it comes to torque specs and what other procedures you want to do. So you are sure later that your brakes are actually functioning, because brakes are important. On my Saab 9.3 we start by removing this front spring clip. This is supposed to be there so the caliper is not riding the disc and making noises. Then I remove the two glides bolts that we find on the back, and they also have this small plastic cap on them. On my, at the moment, I think they were Allen key bolts, but they can also be Torx on these cars. It depends if the screws have been changed and such. Remove those and we can remove the caliper when we also have freed the brake line. Then we move on to the two bolts that are holding the caliper bracket here, and you want a long wrench to get the right momentum on them, and you might also need like a small extension for the top bolt because they are a little bit hard to get to. When installing, you also want to clean up the surface where the pads meet this caliper bracket, and also you might want to add some anti-seize lubricant that is like made for high temp and brake calipers at that area for the brake pads to be able to move freely for a longer time. Then you just need to remove the set screw for the disc, and then you're able to remove the disc itself. And then you want to clean up this area here on the bearing, wheel bearing, so the disc is able to sit flush against the wheel bearing there. And the set screw often needs to be drilled out because it's often like tightened too hard. So when I do my brake jobs, I just slightly tighten this set screw here. If the glide bolts are rusty, or if those small rubber boots here are worn, I would also replace them. It's a very easy task. You just pull them out and then push them in. And when you install the glide bolts again, you want them well lubricated so they won't seize up. And then we move on to pushing the caliper piston in. I remove the cap on the brake fluid reservoir so it does not get pressurized while I'm pushing the piston back. And on the back brakes, the piston needs to be turned while it's pushed in, but for the front ones it's only pushed in. And then we just reverse every step that we have done earlier, and we follow the torque specification for your car. This differs between models, years and cars, and then also see if the manufacturer tells you to use like red or blue Loctite on any bolts. Then I would also look in the manual from the parts manufacturers that you got the parts from, to see if the brakes and parts need to be braked in any special way, if you need to like brake hard for a certain number of times, or if you should just take it easy and not brake too hard for a specific time and such. And while you first drive a car with like zinc coated rotors, I guess only a small bit of the coating will wear down, but as you drive, more and more will disappear and it starts to look like any other brake disc. So brakes are of course a safety feature, but personally I also don't want my rotors to look all rusty and such. And as we can see here, these brakes are now 10 months old, the discs, and these have been used over a winter here in Scandinavia, Sweden and Norway, with a lot of salt and such on the road. And as we can see, the zinc coating is still visible here, and we don't really see any rust. We see some minor like rust spots, but that can also be just from this surface here getting worn away, and then falling down on this surface here and then starting to rust, like the powdery substance that the brakes produce, that starts rusting. But we can also see where we had a coating up here is starting to rust a little bit, but still this is now after 1 season of winter driving, and I have to say it looks almost like they were installed a few days ago if we were to compare them to those discs that are not like zinc coated. So these here in the front here are Bosch zinc coated discs, and they are also balanced. So here we have the rear brakes on my car. These are Techstar discs for the rear, and as we can see it's still got the same kind of zinc coating. You can see a little bit that it's starting to like get attacked from the sides here, but still visible coating on the top here. But these rotors have not been driven through the winter, and these have been installed like 2 months ago, so this still looks really nice and fresh. But if you were to have normal uncoated rotors, they would definitely be all rusty on this surface here. And as we can see, backing up from the car, I have to say it looks much better when we have that coating there. So earlier I have of course tried to like paint that surface, but that doesn't seem to hold up as good as the zinc coating. But for extra protection, maybe adding a layer of paint on top of the zinc coating would give even better, longer protection. So here we have the other side. And as you can see here, a little bit of a surface corrosion, and of course on the top there as well. So it's not perfect, but still much better than the uncoated rotors in my opinion, and they're not that much more expensive either. And to see if they have balanced, you see that slot there on the top. I guess they grind away a little bit, grind away some of the surface on the discs to make them balanced.